Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'm Karen McKenzie, Tenancy Support Officer for the Grace Apartments. And joining me is Emma Smith, Tenancy Support Manager for New South Wales. I'm going to talk to you today about summer housing and the Grace Apartments, and then I'm going to hand you over to Emma, who'll be speaking to you about specialist disability accommodation and the transition process for our tenants. So, who is summer housing and what do we do? Summer Housing is a non-government organisation, and we believe that all people with a disability and complex care needs have the opportunity to live in high-quality housing that enables them to live as independently as possible. We were established in 2017 to really replicate and scale the initial housing demonstration projects in response to young people inappropriately placed in aged care. We've recently surpassed our goal of 300 dwellings. We seek to build industry capability by really sharing our knowledge with other SDA providers, developers, and financiers. Our goal in building these projects is ultimately to enable our tenants to live their life with as much autonomy, privacy, and independence as possible, and to be connected with others and to participate in their community. The Grace Apartments. So the Grace is a mix of 1 and 2 bedroom apartments. It's a medium density complex and it has the overnight assist from the on-site concierge. The apartments are located in Asquith, which is a quiet, leafy suburb, but still only a very short distance from Hornsby. The apartments are across the road from the Asquith Bowling Club, which is fully accessible and was the training green for one of 2 of New South Wales disability bowling representatives. Next door to the bowling club is the home ground of the Asquith Magpies Football Club. The area is very quiet. There are lots of families, lots of dogs being walked, lots of trees and footpaths. A new park area has been built nearby, Story Park, and again, it is fully accessible for our tenants along the footpath. The park has covered barbecue areas, a playground, and a community centre for art exhibitions and gatherings. All of this is able to be enjoyed by our tenants. The Asquith shopping area is only about 5 minutes away along the footpath. It has a very well-stocked Coles, a pharmacy, cafes, hairdressers, and 2 GP clinics. Asquith Station is also fully accessible. The area is serviced by buses also, and the apartments are on the bus route with a bus stop located nearby. Hornsby is about 10 minutes away. It has, of course, Hornsby Westfield, which has more restaurants, cafes, shops, and a movie theatre. Hornsby train station is also fully accessible and is a major train station. The area provides a safe, accessible community for our tenants where they can interact with ease. I'm going to hand you over to Emma now, and she's going to take you through the rest of the presentation.
So I'd like to talk to everybody a little bit now about specialist disability accommodation itself. So when we talk about SDA, we're really talking about either the housing, so the bricks and mortar, and you might hear people say, I'm looking for an SDA improved livability house, or summer housing is an SDA provider. On the other side, we can also be talking about the funding. So SDA is also an NDIS funding element, and you might hear people say, I need SDA in my plan, or I'm being assessed for SDA. So when we talk about SDA, we've got 5 different design categories. There's basic, improved livability, robust, fully accessible, and high physical support. The apartments at the Grace are both fully accessible and high physical support apartments. What is fully accessible? So fully accessible housing is really housing that's been designed to incorporate a high level of physical access for people with a significant physical impairment. And there are a number of design requirements that us as the SDA provider need to meet in order to register these apartments as fully accessible. Now, we've also got the high physical support apartments, and this is housing that's really been designed to incorporate a high level of physical access, but also a high level of supports for people with significant physical impairments. You might notice that the design requirements are fairly similar to fully accessible, However, high physical support housing has additional features that go beyond what's available in fully accessible. And these include things like heating and cooling, household communication, the emergency power backup solutions, and also being assistive technology ready. So in addition to the basic requirements, when summer housing are looking at our apartments, we're really looking for a location that's central. So that would be close to shops, amenities, local GPs, pharmacies, and really making sure that it's an inclusive area. We also incorporate our smart home technology and make our apartments highly customizable so that they feel more like a home and that you're not in somebody's workplace. We also work with the developers to ensure that all of the community areas of the buildings are accessible for our tenants as well. And we integrate our apartments into properties so that they're not identifiable. So we salt and pepper these apartments throughout different developments. So talking a little bit about assistive technology and what's available in our apartments. So SDA has the provisions for the assistive technology. The assistive technology itself is a funding item under the NDIA, and this is typically supported by your occupational therapist through a report that's then submitted to the NDIA. I'd like to show you some of our technology that we do have available as a base standard in some of our apartments. So this is an example done in collaboration with our partners at Harvey Norman, and these are our Kirrawee apartments. So I'm just going to stop sharing my screen with you, and I'm going to bring you back out to the video at Kirrawee. I'd just like to show you this one. It gives a really good example. Hang on, that's the wrong video. Let me start that again. It gives a really good example of what we have available. That's the correct video. No, that's the correct video. Oh, I knew that this would happen to me today.
Alexa, welcome.
Okay.
Alexa, ask for help. Alexa, shut down.
Okay.
Oh, I love that video. It really does demonstrate what these apartments are capable of and how beautiful they are when they're integrated well. So since we've had a look at the technology, I'd just like to talk a little bit about our model of support. So at Summer Housing, we see the separation of housing and supports as the key to choice and control for our tenants. So if you have a look on the left-hand side, you'll see Summer Housing sitting there as the SDA provider and owner of the properties. We also employ a property and tenancy management team, and they take care of things like leases and maintenance for our tenants. In the middle, you've got your tenants sitting there with their coordinator of supports holding everything together. And on the right-hand side, you'll see there's the one-to-one supports, and tenants have full choice and control over these. So anything that somebody can plan for in a day, that would be their one-to-one supports, and tenants can choose who they would like to come in and support them during that time. You'll also see that there is the on-site shared SIL provider. So this is the backup support provider that sits in that separate apartment within the building, and our tenants choose that provider by majority vote. So talking a little bit about the concierge supports, in all of our projects, we have our 10 SDA apartments, as well as one apartment that we have aside for the on-site backup support. We really see this as being a 24-hour roster that's staffed by one support worker each shift within a 24-hour period. And we see this role as being a shared support that's really there for when tenants are alone in their apartment and they need an unplanned support. So that could be, for an example, emergencies. It could be problem solving some novel situations, or in some cases, it can be to provide that second person for the support through transfers. So let's look at the transition. So we typically see transition taking approximately 9 months. And within that time, tenants are busy choosing their one-to-one supports. They're busy selecting their on-site SIL provider, and they're busy making connections with their property and tenancy management team, as well as the summer housing team. To give you a little bit of an idea on what that looks like, we've just popped in an infograph, and you'll see all of the different elements that are there, from accepting the conditional offer all the way to moving into your new home. A lot of people will take a look at that and think, wow, that's just a lot of information to take in. There are a lot of different moving parts, and that's true. It is a lot of different moving parts, and the transition can take quite some time, which is why at Summer Housing we have tenancy support officers that are dedicated for each project. Our tenancy support officers are quite unique to Summer Housing, and they are really there to support and guide tenants through this transition process, whether that's giving updates on the property and where that's at, giving access to the property so that their occupational therapists can come in and make necessary adjustments, helping the tenants liaise with the NDIA, and supporting the tenants and their support coordinators through that application process as well. All right, let's have a look at the nuts and bolts of things. You might think that's all well and good. So what's this going to cost me? So the rents at the SDA apartments are capped, so that reasonable rental contribution is maxed out at 25% of your disability support pension or equivalent, plus any Commonwealth rent assist you might receive, and 25% of any rental supplements you might receive as well. So the bond is typical 4 weeks rent, and 2 weeks rent in advance is to be paid as well. Some other things that you might want to think about before considering these properties is things like groceries and utilities as well. There's an eligibility criteria. So to be eligible to apply for these properties, you do need to be an NDIS participant, or you're waiting to become an NDIS participant. You really do need special features like modified bathrooms or ceiling hoists, and that you have or will likely have SDA funding at the right category level within your NDIS plan. And there's also suitability to consider as well. We know that apartment life is not for everybody. So when people are considering these apartments, we really like them to consider, is this a goal of yours to live independently and not with others? Are you able to live in close proximity with neighbours? And are you prepared to use some of your NDIS funding towards shared on-site supports? So these are some things that I get people to really think about as they're applying for the properties as well. So I'm just going to bring you back through now to our questions and answers. So I'm just want to open up the floor and ask anybody if they have any questions for us, if they would like to use the chat function, or we can unmute you as well, and you will be able to ask your questions. Anybody have any questions?
It looks like Jenny's raised her hand.
Yes.
I'll just unmute you, Jenny.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, good. How are you?
Yeah, good. Thank you for the opportunity to have a look over the portfolio. It's fantastic and very inspiring. I'm interested in understanding more about whether you build sort of speculatively, if that's the right phrase, and then customise the apartments according to the residents, or whether it's a more bespoke process from the start?
That's a really good question. So we have our design requirements for all of our apartments that will meet the NDIA's design requirements and our own design brief.
Mhm.
Then when people are offered a conditional offer with us, they'll walk through with their occupational therapist, with our summer housing tenancy support officers as well. And they can add in things like ceiling hoists, grab rails, they can lower or higher the benches and make anything that's really a personalized item as well. So that's what we mean by highly customizable.
Mhm.
You've got the basic design requirement, but then there's lots of room for movement for people to be able to make it their own.
Okay, thank you.
That's okay. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thanks.
Awesome. Well, I might wrap that up then. Thank you everybody for joining us. If you do think of any questions to ask us, please feel free to give me a call, or my email is there as well. Take down my email address and I'm happy to answer those questions individually. But other than that, thank you everyone for coming, and we might wrap this up. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.